What's going on, you guys? So for this video, we're going to do a just a quick tactical protection review slash kind of training day field note on the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that this video is for educational purposes only. My condolences to him and everyone else affected by this. This video is going to be designed to hopefully make the private security industry better and also educate the public about what it is we do as private security professionals, and how these types of things can be avoided. Even on the civilian side, if you don't have protection, there may be some things that you can do to keep yourself safe as well. So I'm going to go through a few considerations. This isn't in any way designed to speak to the case itself, but this is designed to kind of take a really in-depth look at the situation itself and different ways that it can be mitigated so that we don't see things like this in the future. All right, team, so here we are the night of the assassination. As you guys can see, our bad guy's over here on the far wall. So you can see where he's at. He's over here in the center of the screen. He is across the street from his target in an overwatch position. His target's going to walk out of his meeting here shortly, and then he's going to begin to engage. In the private security game, one of the things that we do very often is we set a team up. See, now you can see he's walking across the street and he's getting ready to engage. But if we take that back, this kind of leans into what it takes to protect a human, right? One of the things that we want to make sure that we are avoiding in executive protection is a literal force-on-force engagement where it's an equal playing field and it's one EP agent versus one aggressor. That's what we don't want to have. So when we're talking with clients and they're kind of like, hey, you know, we just want one agent, this scenario kind of shows you how that can be a problem. Now, if it is a solo agent engagement, there are still things that we can do as private security professionals to keep you much more safe. However, the industry standard would be 2. Ideally, we would like 3 EP agents per 1 protectee, depending on the risk level. And let me explain to you why, right? So in situations like this, where you have the enemy who's out here, what we would generally do is we would have an advanced agent, we would have an AIC, an agent in charge, and then we would also have a body man, right? So that advanced agent is gonna go to every single location where that CEO or client's gonna go in real time. He's gonna stay ahead of the client package at all times, right? So the advanced agent would show up curbside in this situation, and he would be out here if the client was coming in and arriving. He would be out here making sure the sidewalk is safe. He would already been there at least an hour early. He'd be out here conducting counter surveillance, meaning he would be watching to see who else is watching for his client. Anyone who's not fitting into the baseline of behaviors in that environment now becomes a target for him, or someone for him to be aware of, someone for him to maybe interview, walk up, introduce himself to. And as you can see here, this would have been ideal, because what would have happened is that advanced agent would have been in that environment and he would have been standing by before an arrival and or even while the client is upstairs, and he would have seen that there's just some guy lurking over here on the street corner, standing there. Now, this doesn't mean he's going to go engage that individual. However, it does mean he's going to be hyper aware of everything that person does. Now, for this aggressor to get off the building, walk all the way across the street, the next thing that we focus on is vectoring in, right? Now, the ideal scenario here where we now have an aggressor that's vectoring in, this is where the 2 agents come into play. You want to have 2 agents so one agent can address the threat, right? One agent can produce a firearm or utilize whatever tools he has at his disposal and address the aggressor who's vectoring in and coming towards the CEO, the client, or whoever it is. And the additional agent, the AIC, the agent in charge, can now take the client, cover, and evacuate. As you can see from our school, we run this type of drill all the time. This is basic executive protection operations. However, if you have the one advanced agent who can be outside, curbside, making sure that everything is clean and safe, and going ahead of you on your itinerary and making everything safe before you arrive, You then have the advantage of having the body man and the agent in charge who are actually with the actual protectee, with the client at all times, so that if anything does slip through, you have one executive protection agent to address the threat, address the client, and you have a second one to cover and evacuate and take you to the next known safe location. And that's how you avoid having something like this happen. Can one agent do it? Yes, one agent can do a lot of this in a lot of cases. Based on the client's financial capabilities and appetite. We find ourselves in a position where the client just wants one agent, and that's fine. That one agent might be inside the boardroom with him, coming out of the meeting with him. He wants to walk outside first, make sure he gets eyes on everything first. But as you can see, one agent is going to be positioned correctly back into the right or back into the left of the client, right? Generally, that one agent will stand here on the street side of the client, pushing the client up against the wall so that he can look behind him and master the most visual activity, right? So if there was a single agent scenario, either that agent's inside with the principal walking out, in many cases that agent's sitting in the vehicles over the vehicles that are all parked curbside, and he's just watching the street, making sure everything's cool. When his client walks out, he gets out of the vehicle to get the client into the vehicle. He's one agent, remember, and he's looking around. If it's two agent, one agent sits in the driver's seat while the other agent gets out and make sure the client makes it to the vehicle safely and securely. But if it's one guy, one executive protection agent, which in this case could have made a very big difference, he would be trailing that client back into the left or back into the right, looking behind him, paying attention to anyone who's moving around, and generally he would notice the guy walking from across the street dressed in a hood. If it walks like a duck, it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And he would see that individual coming. And then the only question is the question of, do you have armed security or not, based on your corporate policies? Were the people hired to protect you, given the tools they need to protect you, based on what the enemy in the environment has to bear and has at his disposal, right? And that's where it's really important to make sure you have competent protectors who have training jackets, who are looking at executive protection as more than just a job, and it's a lifestyle, and you're dealing with reputable agents. What happened here is a drill that we train all the time in our school because it's basic executive protection work, and these are basic executive protection competencies that do save lives, right? So let's take a look at it again from another angle. This is just a close-up on the actual engagement, right? So ideally, as you see the CEO is walking, this is where having a professional protection team can make all the difference. Either in these vehicles on the left side of the screen here, there would be executive protection professionals in those vehicles who would have been watching this guy across the street the entire time the meeting was taking place, right? Or you would have a team of executive protection professionals walking out with the client, and they would be paying attention to what? The people that are vectoring in towards the protectee. And this is how we keep people safe in real time when all of the other things we do fail, right? So generally, there's a digital layer on this individual. We would know if anyone's talking about him on the dark web, talking about him in open source intelligence, on the internet, planning anything. Generally, there are other concentric rings of security that we would be implementing to help this individual live a safer pattern of life. And I understand, this event here had a massive impact on the industry because people started to realize how easy it really is to just simply walk up and target and effectively target somebody who may be on your hit list no matter where they are in an organization and in a company. And of course, the concern now is that there'll be more copycats and different things of that nature that can impact the C-suite demographic of America and of the world. The reality is that in other countries, things like this are happening almost daily to various people in political and C-suite positions. And so this happening in the United States and in the United States soil was very impactful, and hopefully doesn't represent a new era of the types of crimes that can impact business. Now, so for a quick overview, if you yourself are walking out by yourself and you do have a risk profile, there are people that don't like your brand, your brand has done things that are questionable, and you may have to pay the price for it, even though you're not the person that made the decision. You know that the public sentiment around your brand is maybe not positive. And quick note, if you work for a company or organization, you got all that part of stuff in there, and you are in a position where you have to do these things solo, and you are in a position where you may be doing something that's risky, run through the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of what I always teach when it comes to safe life patterning. Context, what's the context? I'm gonna be walking around at nighttime in the inner city. So we're already at a yellow risk profile, right? Maybe I should call a cab, maybe I should call an Uber, maybe I should have someone walk with me, right? Tactical positioning, who in my environment has tactical positioning on me, is vectoring into my position or is in a position of advantage on me at all times, i.e. the person standing on the right side of the road in the corner. You're going to have to pass that person. You should be watching that person very closely. The person crossing the street quickly to get behind you. These types of things have to catch your attention. And then rolling risk assessment. You're looking at hands, you're looking at every individual that you come in contact with, looking for eye contact, and trying to understand where they're at in their hostile planning cycle. Do they look nervous? Do they look calm? Do they have a bulge in their waist? And you're continually running through those ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of personal protection at all times. Generally, those 3 things can help you live a safer pattern of life. This is Byron Rodgers, CEO of Bravo Research Group. Wanted to bring you this video to try to educate everyone in the industry and around the industry. And of course, my deepest condolences to Brian Thompson and his family for what has taken place. And hopefully we can all make the world a safer place. God bless. Semper Fi. More to come.